Hello and welcome to another episode of Handloader TV. I'm your host, Jeremiah. And in this episode, we've got an exciting brand new Magnum rifle powder here that we're going to be taking an in-depth look at. This is Ramshot GRAND powder, brand new, recently released. And there's already lots of load data on Hodgdon's website for this particular powder. In fact, they have loads from the mighty 375 Remington Ultra Mag all the way down to the small but mighty 22-250 Remington. And so we've got a wide range of rifles here in front of us. We're going to go ahead and use these as test platforms for this particular powder. So let's go ahead and talk about the rifles really quick, and then we'll dive into the nuts and bolts and take a deep dive on the powder itself. So the first rifle I want to talk about here on the far right is a brand new Montana Rifle Company Highline model rifle chambered in 6.5 PRC. It's a really neat rifle. Early on this channel, we actually did a lot of testing with an original Montana Rifle Company rifle in 6.5 PRC. So I plan to revisit that cartridge with this rifle from the new Montana Rifle Company after they got bought out by G5 Outdoors. Pretty neat rifle, very reminiscent of the old pre-64 Winchester Model 70s with the Mauser style claw extractor, wing 3-position safety. And to top this rifle off, we have a Zeiss Conquest. I believe this one's a V4 6-24 by 50 millimeter optic on there. Very nice rifle scope on there. And we've got a muzzle brake on the end to help tame recoil and keep you on target while you're shooting. Then the next rifle that I want to talk about here is actually my own custom-built rifle. This is a Remington Model 700, blueprinted and true to action there. 26-inch proof research barrel with a muzzle brake, and the optic to top it off is a Leupold VX6. This is a 3-18 by 44, and parallax adjustment illuminated reticle with the TMOA reticle in there. Personal favorite gun of mine. Killed a lot of deer with this rifle over the years, and it's always shot very well. And I'm really excited to see what this particular powder does in its chambering, the 280 Ackley improved. Then stepping it up to a little bit more of your Magnum realm things, we have a 27 Nosler here. This is a very nice rifle. It's built on the M48 action. This is their M48 LR carbon or long range carbon, chambered in 27 Nosler. And then we've got a front focal plane. This is the Leupold VX3i, 4-14 by 50. So great optic on there. And it's got a 26-inch barrel, which is 1 8.5 twist, and on the end there we've got actually a dead air suppressor to kind of help tame the recoil and the noise and report of the rifle as well. Really curious to see how Grand performs in the 27 Nosler cartridge. And then to jump it up to an even larger cartridge, we have a Nosler custom rifle. They built only a limited number of these rifles, but they're absolutely beautiful, did really nice wood. They did a limited run in several cartridges, and one of the cartridges they ran was the 338 Winchester Magnum. This has a 24-inch barrel topped off with a custom-built Leupold scope. Very nice rifle, and a whole lot of fun to shoot. So these will be our 4 test platforms for testing out hand loads using Ramshot GRAND powder. Now let's talk a little bit more about the powder itself, get into some of its chemistry and the technical aspects so you know what you can expect from this powder. So as always, whenever a new powder is released, the first thing I really want to take a look at is the burn rate chart. I want to know what powders are close in relative burn rate to the powder in question. So in this case, with Ramshot GRAND, it sits between Hodgdon H1000 on the fast side and Norma 217 and Hodgdon Rotumbo on the slow end. Now Hodgdon Rotumbo has been an extremely popular powder over the years. It's gained a lot of traction, especially in Magnum rifle cartridges. So it's nice to see that a powder is very close to that burn rate speed, so it's going to be optimal in the same family of cartridges as well, theoretically. We're going to put that to the test, obviously, today with the gauntlet of cartridges we'll be testing. So taking an up-close look under the microscope here of Ramshot GRAND, we can kind of see what the powder looks like. And if we look at it closely, we can see that this is a double base spherical propellant. I'm not really sure you could tell that just by looking at it, but the primary energetics of this powder are nitrocellulose and nitroglycerin. The bulk density comes out to about 990 grams per cubic centimeter, and the shape of the individual granules come in two very distinctive shapes. The first one being spherical balls that measure out to about 34 ten-thousandths of an inch. The second shape is a flattened spherical granule that measures out to about 15 ten-thousandths of an inch thick and about 45 ten-thousandths of an inch wide, or 0.045 inches. And these granules are blackish gray in color. And one interesting thing about Ramshot GRAND is that it's not made over in PB Clermont in Belgium, like most of the powders in the Ramshot line. Ramshot GRAND is actually made right here in the United States at the St. Mark's powder plant in Florida. So that's really neat to see. It's nice to see that Hodgdon is supporting domestic production of the powders, and that should also help out quite a bit when it comes to things like availability, things of that nature. So a great powder there. And some more technical information on the powder. It does feature a copper defouling or copper fouling eraser or remover additive to the powder. So you can shoot a little bit longer and stay in that accuracy node. It's going to clean up some of that copper fouling while you're shooting, or at least reduce it. And then also it is very temperature stable. We've put that to the test in other articles and things of that nature. And it's proven to be very reliable at a wide range of temperatures. And you don't get that velocity variation from hot to cold like you experience with a lot of the more traditional and mainstream powders. So there you have it. Now we're going to go ahead and take these rifles and some select loads in these rifles with this powder, and we're going to hit the range and put them to the test and let you guys kind of see the wide range of different cartridges and rifles that you can use this powder in. Now we're not really going to be focusing too much on accuracy here with this. We're going to just be shooting steel just to kind of give you a feel for the powder. And frankly, we don't have enough time to work up loads in each one of these rifles. So we're just going to pick the best load that we think would work well with these, shoot them, and then we'll give you the data so you can work up loads for yourself and see what shoots best in your rifle, which will always lead to the best results. So let's hit the range. So as you can see, we're out on the range now. We've got a steel plate down range at 100 yards, and we have a Garmin Zero C1 Pro chronograph to record all of our velocities today. And according to my Kestrel 5700 here, the temperature is 50 degrees Fahrenheit, humidity is 23.1%, and barometric pressure, when adjusted for elevation, which is 5,000 foot, the barometric pressure is 30.58 in Hg. And according to this Kestrel, there is pretty much little to no wind. Right now it's blowing at about 2.5 miles an hour. I'd say gusts are going up to maybe 5 miles an hour. So very nice, calm day. And we're going to go ahead and start out with our 6.5 PRC here. Let's go ahead and run you through the data real quick, and then we'll put some shots on the target. So we've got our new Montana Rifle Company. This is their Highline model, benched in, ready to go, chambered in 6.5 PRC. For the load data, we're using a 61.2 grain charge of Ramshot GRAND powder with 135 grain Hornady A-tip bullet, Hornady cases, CCI BR2 primers, and our overall loaded length is 2.945 inches. Now, traditionally speaking, a lot of old repeated wisdom says to use a Magnum primer with ball powders, in particular slower burning ball powders, to get consistent ignition. And out of habit, I just selected the CCI BR2 for this particular load. I don't think it's necessary. It's kind of right on the edge there, the 6.5 PRC, of needing a Magnum primer and not needing a Magnum primer. The BR2 burns just a little bit hotter. I prefer it in cartridges like this that are right on the fence there. The 280 Ackley Improved is one of them. 6.5 PRC, 6.5 284 even in some cases. So that's why I selected that primer. However, I haven't noticed any of those burn issues with Ramshot GRAND. It seems to be a really good burn and consistent regardless of whether you're using a little bit hotter match style primer, bench rest style primer, or you're just using a standard primer. So on that note, let's go ahead and get our chronograph ready to go. Settle in behind the gun, and we'll put a group on the steel best as we can. Steel's not the most precise, especially when it's all painted and you don't really have a point to hold on it, but we'll see what this rifle can do. That bolt feels pretty dang slick on this rifle. Feels real nice. Recoil impulse is very pleasant. Yep, feels real good. Respectable velocity. Not too shabby. I will take it. Let's go ahead and we'll put this rifle up and we'll move on to the next charge and cartridge combination for Ramshot GRAND. So the next cartridge that we're going to use to test this Ramshot GRAND powder is the 280 Ackley Improved. This is my own personal custom Remington 700. It's my hunting rifle. I've killed a lot of game with this. Big fan of the cartridge and the rifle as well. So I'm really curious to see how Ramshot GRAND performs in this, because if it does well, then maybe this is something I would consider taking into the field for hunting and using this powder. But at any rate, we're using, obviously, Ramshot GRAND powder, a 65.0 grain charge with 168 grain Burger Classic Hunter, Nosler cases, CCI BR2 primers, and our overall loaded length is 3.355 inches. Let's go ahead and put this guy to the test and see how it performs. Wow, that just goes to show you what a hammer of a cartridge that is. We shot this yesterday with a 300 Weatherby Magnum, and it didn't collapse the whole assembly like that. It did send the steel plate flying one time, and you can check out that video, which will probably be posted before this one in all likelihood. But yeah, 3,078 feet per second on that shot, 168 grain Burger Classic Hunter, and we got to reset the plate, so I'll be right back. So in all likelihood, after looking at that, the 300 Weatherby probably softened up the plate a little bit, and then I also hit a little bit high on the plate. For whatever reason, that tends to collapse the stand on this guy, so I am going to adjust my point of aim a little bit lower. And I keep saying this, I really need to invest in better steel target stands. Thought this one was better. This is an upgrade from what we have used in the past, but not quite good enough. All right, let's shoot it. There we go, a little bit more centered that time on the plate. And as a result, yeah, she's still standing, so that's good. All right, get that guy. I get my exercise in today at least. All right, and we're back at the bench. Rifle's loaded, good to go. Steel plates reset. Let's see if we can put 2 more rounds on there without knocking the dang thing over. All right. Very nice. All right, and she's still standing. I shored it up a little bit, and hopefully that'll help as we move up in cartridge size. So let's go ahead and swap on over to our next rifle. So now we've swapped on over to the Nosler M48 in 27 Nosler. We're using a 77 grain charge of Ramshot GRAND powder with 170 grain Burger EOL or Extreme Outer Limits bullet, Nosler cases, Winchester large rifle Magnum primers, and our overall loaded length is 3.455 inches. Pretty curious to see how this particular bullet performs. And now that we have a hole in the steel plate, we might as well make it worthwhile to break the welder out and fix that. So let's go ahead and put some rounds on target here. Oh yeah, this is going to be a repetitive thing with this rifle, I can tell already. 3119 on that. Not even a max charge, I don't think so. Impressive. Let's go ahead and reset the target. All right, so we've got the target shored up again. Let's go ahead and put a round on there and we'll see if we can't break it again. We did a lot of extra shoring up this time. So far, so good. Really liking the recoil impulse of the 27 Nosler with this dead air 33 caliber can on it. It is a little bit over bore for the 27 Nosler, but boy does it do a good job of cutting recoil and the noise factor as well. Very nice. There's our 5 rounds on target. No complaints. So in this case, we have saved the best for last. This is a custom-built Nosler M48 chambered in 338 Winchester Magnum. And we're using a 72 grain charge of Ramshot GRAND powder with a 300 grain Sierra hollow point boat tail bullet, Nosler cases, Winchester large rifle Magnum primers, and our overall loaded length is just a touch long at 3.490 inches. I'm a huge fan of this particular bullet in the 338 Win Mag. And I've had great success with it in the past, but let's see what Ramshot GRAND is capable of. All right. That's a big bullet. Man, that rifle is, it is slick. It feels so nice. lost a hanger hook, and it looks pretty bent through the optic here. I don't know if that's going to be salvageable. You know, as much as I'd like to try and split that plate in half, we better go down range and rehang it, and I'll see if I can't jury rig up a system that's a little bit better, or maybe add some tie wire. We'll be right back after fixing the plate. All right, so we're back after fixing the plate. We're going to go ahead and continue on. We've got 3 more rounds to shoot. Lost the hook again, but that plate's still hanging relatively straight. Let's go ahead and see if we can't put one more on before we gotta fix it. Oh, look at that. I'm pretty sure that plate's probably close to, if not already, out of camera frame. So we'll go down there, fix it one more time, and send our last shot. Okay, fix the target. Let's shoot our last round of the day with our 338. Wow. I tried to keep it hung in place with baling twine, but or baling wire. That didn't really work. But we got our 5 rounds on the steel. That's the most important thing. That was a whole lot of fun. Magnums are just, they're a blast to shoot. There's so much energy, there's so much power behind them. I thoroughly enjoy it. Let's go ahead and head back to the bench, and we'll talk a little bit more about this powder and offer some closing thoughts. So we're back at the bench now after doing a lot of shooting with these rifles. Had a lot of fun banging that steel gong around. I realize now that I need to reinforce it a little bit more if we're going to continue shooting Magnums at that particular stand. But it was a lot of fun, and we've got some really good data to go through. So let's go ahead and dive right into it, starting out with the 6.5 PRC. Using a 61.2 grain charge of Ramshot GRAND, and this is a maximum charge with this bullet, the 135 grain Hornady A-tip. You're going to want to work your way up to this charge, don't just copy and paste. It is a maximum charge. We got really good standard deviation of 12 and an average velocity of 3,066 feet per second. And overall, the extreme spread was only 37 feet per second. So really good results there with the 6.5 PRC. Wouldn't hesitate to load up a good stout charge of Ramshot GRAND in that rifle and go hunting. I mean, it's a great powder in there. Obviously, the burn rate works well, and performance was pretty good on the steel there as well. Then we jumped over to the 280 Ackley Improved, which is a personal favorite of mine, and it's also the only rifle that managed to put a hole in the steel plate, which, to be honest with you guys, it surprised me. I thought if anything was going to put a hole in it, it would be the 27 Nosler, but I think we just kind of hammered the plate in the same spot and kind of drilled a hole through eventually. Using a 65 grain charge of Ramshot GRAND, which again is a maximum charge here in the 280 Ackley Improved, with a 168 grain Berger Classic Hunter bullet, we get a standard deviation of 13, extreme spread of 37, and an average velocity of 3,067 out of this 26-inch barrel. So very, very good results there for just picking the max load and running with it. It performed very well, very pleased with that velocity figure. And I'm very excited to try this out a little bit more and do some more experimenting with different bullets in the 280 Ackley Improved. I may have found a new powder for hunting. I'm a big fan of the temperature stability for hunting loads because you never know when you're going to shoot the animal. If it's going to be first thing in the morning when it's freezing cold, or in the afternoon when it's bedded up, you just don't know. So it's nice to have that that variable eliminated while you're out in the field. Then we have the 27 Nosler, a 77 grain charge of Ramshot GRAND with a 170 grain Burger Extreme Outer Limits bullet. We got, again, a standard deviation of 13 and an extreme spread of 34 and an average velocity of 3,099 feet per second. So really, really close to 3,100 feet per second there. And I can't complain about that. I think that's pretty good for a .270 caliber with a 170 grain bullet. Very pleased with that. And with that suppressor on there, it was very, very pleasant to shoot as well. So great results in the 27 Nosler, which is really the first true Magnum cartridge we've tested thus far. Then we jumped on over to the .338 Winchester Magnum using a 72 grain charge of Ramshot GRAND, and this should be pretty dang close to a max load, so use caution there as well, with the 300 grain Sierra Hollow Point Boat Tail bullet, or Match King. We got a standard deviation of just 5 and an extreme spread of 13 and an average velocity of 2,427 feet per second. Very, very respectable with the .338 Winchester Magnum and a 300 grain bullet. That's a big chunk of lead that you're sending pretty quickly for that cartridge down range. And the standard deviation number for picking just a random load there, I am extremely impressed with that. I'd love to do a workup and develop a little bit more accurate load with this rifle and see what it can do with this powder. Maybe that's something we'll have to do in the near future. But there you have it. There's the results. There's the load data, so you can develop your own loads in your own rifle, and you know what to expect with Ramshot GRAND. I'll leave you with a few closing thoughts and a little bit on this powder and close out the video. So I wanted to close out this video with a few personal thoughts on the powder itself. Just my personal opinions, so take them with a grain of salt. But as a whole, I am very excited to be adding this powder to my own bench. And I think if you give it a try, you'll be as equally excited to add it into your box of tools. Because it is a great powder. And as much as I do love Hodgdon Rotumbo, it's not going to replace that powder for me. However, you never know which rifle might like Hodgdon Rotumbo and which rifle might like Ramshot GRAND, and it is a little bit different burn rate than Rotumbo, slightly different. So it fits a nice niche, and it's nice to have those options on the market as well. I'm a big fan of the temperature stability, especially out in hunting, as previously mentioned. I think it makes a big difference, and it just offers a little bit of peace of mind for the end user of the product. The performance was very good across the wide range of cartridges that we tested, and we did a lot of other testing that we didn't have time to show in this video, such as the temperature stability and things of that nature. So all in all, it's a great powder and another great tool to add to your toolbox. And I would highly encourage you guys, if you see a pound of it, give it a try. You never know what it might work in. And with these slower burn rate powders like Ramshot GRAND, they're very versatile, especially in the smaller cartridges, because you're not going to hit that peak pressure in those smaller cartridges, generally speaking. So a lot of times you can get away with using a slower burning powder in a smaller cartridge as compared to using a faster burning powder in that smaller cartridge. You tend to hit the peak pressure a little bit earlier. So all in all, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope most importantly that you learned something about powder, about Ramshot GRAND, about rifles, just some little nugget of wisdom that you could take home and put to practical application. So thank you so much. If you liked this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, let us know, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button along with the bell icon so you're notified when we post our next video. We do all kinds of videos here at Handloader TV, from full load development videos showcasing you the best loads in a given rifle. Then we post all the results on our sister website, loaddata.com. There's tons of things, tons of testing that we were always doing. So if you're looking to get the most out of your rifle, be sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss out. And then, as always, if there's any questions or anything you want to add to the conversation, there's the comment section below on YouTube. Be sure to drop us a comment. I do still read every single one of those comments. However, it is getting a little bit hard to respond to every one of them now that we have over 25,000 subscribers. But I do my best to get in there and answer your guys' questions as I can and when I have time. And don't forget, And remember, time at the bench equals accuracy downrange. So get out there and have some fun. I will see you in the next episode.